welcome back. This is Botanical Barbara at Lindsay Hale Gardens, and we're going to show you today our Slat House. This is the Slat House. A slat house is probably a bit of an antique name. It is a structure that I'm happy to say my husband built for me to house orchids and ferns. Anyway, I ended up housing orchids in the Slat House. The Slat House is ideally suited for plants that have low light. They need light, but they don't need direct sun. So I think it's a bit of an antique idea. It preceded a shade house or greenhouse, a slat house. And in it, we have a collection of ferns. So I'm going to show them to you now. The Slat House is built from teak, and there's a copper roof, which is not usual. He just happened to have had copper, and it's very attractive, and the design is completely Leo's. The door of the Slat House has copper cats. So I'm pleased. Let's go look inside, see what's in there. The Slat House is housing a variety of ferns. The wonderful thing about ferns, even though they are completely different, there's so many varieties, 300 or more, I think, varieties of ferns. They pretty much like the same conditions. So they're in this semi-shaded house. It's a bit moist because everything stays in. And the variety, just here alone, is quite extensive, I think. So this is a crested bird's nest, Japanese crested bird's nest fern. This is the very famous, this quite old, it's been here for a while, bird's nest fern. And this gorgeous beauty here is a staghorn fern. This is actually a holly fern. It looks like a holly. And we have Boston ferns and a variety of, that little fern in the front is actually called a heart fern. It's actually quite old. It's been here for a long, long time. It does profusely send off spores. I'll show you this. Seeds are spores with ferns, and you will probably look at your fern and think, oh no, what is that? That is actually the seeds, the spores of this fern. And this is what will produce a plant. And all ferns, as antique as they are, because they are one of the oldest living plants around, are propagated through their spores. So it's interesting, you must hold up your fern leaves and all of these will mature and they will be little ferns. So that's a little look in here at our Slat House. I would love to have many more, and we have had from time to time in here. This one is actually called a kangaroo fern. So the Slat House in the garden also has other uses because it has a lovely surface area. These are actually some succulents, and at the bottom are some ferns that can grow on the outside, and just the whole area, a lovely old hanging orchid that becomes floral several times a year. And this plant, which is covering a large portion of the garden, is called Tithonia. It's actually a Mexican sunflower. It's an interesting plant. It's not flowering right now, and at some point I hope I'll be able to show you it flowering because it's a beautiful, brilliant yellow sunflower. It has other properties. The Tithonia is known to be a protein source, and it's a supplement for cows. Actually, in Antigua, I know the Hall Valley Farm uses Tithonia to supplement their cow's diet. So that's an interesting story. I'm holding a passion fruit, and I was laughed at that it's the only one, but I do have several. There's a lovely vine that hangs itself onto the Slat House. So that's our story of the Slat House. this is an addition to my fern collection in the Slat House. And the circumstances are similar because this is a slatted roof. And as I said before, ferns like to be in a semi-shaded area. So we have some potted ferns, and they've been here for a long time. This is an asparagus fern, and this is also an asparagus fern. And a more popular fern that's everywhere, this is a giant, a larger version of the maidenhair fern. And this is also the delicate maidenhair fern. These are, I call them antique, and lots of people have them in their gardens. As I was a child, my grandmother certainly had maidenhairs. They're not that easy. They go up and down, and they actually don't mind getting a good trim every now and again, and they come back looking beautiful. And because this is not a fern, but because it's so beautiful, I'll mention it. It's called a caladium. It's a caladium. It's called Thai Beauty. It's such a beauty. And it does flower all year round. It likes minimum light and minimum water. Easy to take care of. And this one is that kangaroo paw fern that we mentioned in the Slat House. So another small addition to the fern collection. Thank you for looking, and thank you for visiting. Please subscribe and like. Bye for now.